Our next speaker is a member of the core leadership team of Vodafone Idea Limited. He leads the company's regulatory, public policy, and government relations activities, along with industry advocacy, corporate communications, reputation management, and CSR. Pioneer in telecom sector with a rich experience of over 30 years in diverse functions, including sales, product management, marketing, strategy, and operations. He has the unique experience of holding leadership positions in all three telecom verticals with leading technology devices companies and telecom operators. Prior to joining Vodafone, Balaji was managing director of Nokia India and Sony Mobile. Over the years, he has led senior leadership positions in startup and turnaround ventures of Tata Group, AT&T, Ericsson, and Lucent Technologies. Let's put our hands together and welcome P. Balaji, Chief Regulatory and Corporate Affairs, Vodafone India.
Thank you, PG, and thank you, Voice and Data, for this wonderful conference. I think it's always a delight to be here with you, PG, and your entire team. Akhil, I think, has set the stage very beautifully in terms of highlighting what the opportunities and the challenges are for the sector. I think I'll just add a few more points of view. The good news is a lot of progress has happened in the last 12 to 18 months as far as the sector is concerned. I think we hit a low in 2019 when there were a lot of adverse judgment, a lot of headwinds for the industry as a whole. Since then, the government has really done a stellar job in terms of coming up with a reform package in September last year, which allowed for the industry to stabilize. They've also given a very clear signal about the industry structure. They want to make sure that there is a four-operator play in the industry, and they're also kind of clear that they need to provide adequate time for the industry to repair itself, because the last 6 or 7 years had been brutal prior to that. And so all of that is very, far-reaching, and one must absolutely congratulate the government for transformation policy. The recent 5G auctions, again, are a very clear reflection. The nature of the way they've conducted it is to make sure that there was a fair amount of spectrum available for all the operators to buy what they needed. That's number one. Number two, they ensured that the payment terms that were actually put in place were those that allowed for investments to go into the network rather than to end up making too much of upfront contribution to the government exchequer by way of paying for the spectrum. So what is 50% of the spectrum of 20 years being paid upfront is now made annuity, which is obviously a very, very welcome step in that direction. So that's the second dimension. That said, I think Akhil made a very important point on the financial health, the need for repair, for the need for having adequate return on capital, and therefore clearly there was an increase in tariffs, a small amount of increase that took place in December last year. He's absolutely right when he says that the ARPU needs to be between 250 and 300 rupees at a minimum in the next 1 to 1.5 years' time. I'm sure that with new technologies, new services, and everything else that's being rolled out, that would be a journey that would actually be hit soon. The overall digitization plan that the government has, the industry has, is tremendous, and obviously that's driving the need for a lot more investment into robust infrastructure. We have about 700,000 base stations and installed across the country, all on 4G over a period of time. Next few years, we'll obviously start to migrate towards 5G. That's number one. Also, for enhanced coverage, you'll end up having another 500,000 sites, to my mind, which are going to be the micro cells that need to be built up for 5G to basically be, ubiquitous in that sense. So we're talking about $100 billion kind of number that NDCP talks about across the entire ecosystem. I'm not talking about just the telecom space or the tower space, but also what AWS does and what the device manufacturers will put in and so on. But that's a significant amount of investment that needs to be made in this industry, and therefore, to that extent, making sure that every layer of the ecosystem is having enough cash flow and returns is going to be a very critical part. On the immediate opportunities that I see for 5G, a lot of it is going to be driven around Industry 4.0. A lot of it is going to be driven around the enterprise solutions. From our own experience, from our parent company, Vodafone, that has rolled out 5G robustly in many, many markets. I would say that the industry 4.2 opportunities are going to be significant, but yes, it requires a lot of collaboration and partnership which has to come in between the telecom players, the infrastructure providers, as well as and the enterprises. So in the space of automotive, in the space of manufacturing, we expect a lot of use cases that are going to come up, whether it's in the space of connected and smart factories, whether it's in synchronized planning, whether it's smart supply chain network, or on smart logistics operations. All of those will be significant drivers for uptake of 5G. The second area, of course, is in the healthcare side. It's very evident that uh, with the uh, with the need for primary and secondary healthcare to tier 2 and rural India, it's a good opportunity that you have with these robust networks coming up and the speeds available to make sure that there is adequate interplay between the healthcare providers and the telcos to provide services around healthcare area. Smart cities is another area which we believe is going to take off in a pretty big way, whether it's smart utility management or whether it's smart grids or metering system, whether it's smart traffic management systems or traffic lights or video surveillance, and so on, or even for that matter, waste management. I think there'd be significant opportunities that are going to come up in this dimension as well. And agriculture is another area that is potentially, an area where 5G can make a transformational impact. So what are the operators doing about it? I think Akhil talked about some of the plans that are being announced. 4G needs to go deeper, 5G needs to come in, and all of this will happen. But I think at the heart of the whole thing, the architecture of networks has been substantially improved over the last 24 to 36 months in preparation. So if I look at Vodafone Idea, we've absolutely moved a lot of our applications to the cloud. New technologies around AI, ML, cloud, robotics, and blockchain have been executed or implemented into our operations in significant way in order to make sure that we are ready for that rollout which will happen in future. And clearly, the other thing which is coming up is the fact that with the virtualization and with the effort that all the cloud players, including you guys do, the Amazon guys do, the ability to kind of turn up, should I say, capacity on the server side, on the data side is, of course, very easily done as you start to see scale up in the enterprise spaces. So, as a company, Vodafone Idea, building on the experience of our parent company as well as our own strong position in the enterprise space, are engaged with our enterprise partners and looking at the use cases that can be put up in the early rollout of 5G into enterprises to begin with, and over time, as the devices pick up, as the density of 5G devices and our customers pick up and the competitive intensity picks up, then we will kind of also go into more large-scale deployment on a city, and then thereafter the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. But the primary use case to my mind will come in the enterprise space, which is upon us almost immediately. I think the steps overall, the cooperation that I think PG talked about, the ecosystem coming together, has been the key. Device manufacturers, the amount of testing that's being done in order to make sure that we can actually get these devices tested for 5G networks across all the operators is ongoing. The enterprises are showing a lot more, should I say, enthusiasm towards getting 5G services into their factories and in their operations. The fact that the government has been a very, very big, strong supporter. Akhil mentioned about Gati Shakti. It's a great initiative. We're getting the state and the local administrations to collaborate with the center and the industry to make sure that there's no rent seeking, but actually right of way tower fiber is laid out very quickly. I think is a very important step. The fact that today we have 36% of towers fiberized, needing to go up to about 80-85 is a real thing. The fact that the government has made E and V band available for microwave backhaul as an interim step is again it's a very, very good step. So in effect, from planning to execution is where the industry and the government and the ecosystem players are, and it's a very good space. But at the core of it is, again, to repeat what Akhil said, you need to make sure that financially things are sorted out sooner than later. So 18 months is a good time rather than to leave it for 3 years. And I think I'm quite hopeful that with the maturity that's come into the sector, with the space that is there structurally, you've got a good number of operators, strong infrastructure players, and renewed interest in the sector in terms of investment. I think we're looking at a good opportunity in the future, of course, with a few headwinds which I'm sure will disappear over time. I once again thank PG and Voice and Data for inviting me here today, and thank you very much for being with us in this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Balaji.